what's the fun of that if I'm not panicking a little when I have pressed live? Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Egg for Thursday, April 18th. If you woke up really, really well, here you go. I'm about to tell you some news that may make you think, ugh, why? Because every day brings hope with it. Hope that the world is going to change. We are in this really interesting period where we've got people saying, everyone is now saying there's something really, 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 really wrong. And that, interestingly enough, gives me hope that if more and more people are now going, okay, there really is something wrong, that means more and more people may be inclined to do something about changing that. I hope. I hope we don't all become complacent and think that it's somebody else's job to change the world or change each other, as I have mentioned, and as many, many people mention. Really, it is about change. Really does start from within. You've got to change yourself first before anything else will change around you. But we're going to resume what we're here to do, and that is to read the news headlines from around the world. I start off with Australian publications or outlets and then move around. So from Australian Broadcasting, I don't know if it's corporation or commission. Isn't that sad? But ABC, or Auntie as we call it here. Unfortunately, Auntie is a little bit in the bad books in recent times because Auntie has been taking, it's corporation, thank you, darling. Auntie has been taking sides. However, we do love our ABC. We do. Even if people put their personal agendas on things that are supposed to be for the public. So, headlines. DV services getting more calls from women after Saturday's Bondi Junction attack. The violence that unfolded in Westfield Bondi Junction has left women around Australia shaken and disturbed, leading to a spike in demand for some domestic violence services. This is, I don't know where to go with this. Domestic violence has been on the increase, or actually not so much domestic violence. People knowing about the rates of domestic violence, people knowing that more and more women have been subjected to this. I am someone who knows a bit about that. As a child, I witnessed a lot of domestic violence happening in front of my eyes to my beloved mother, and I will talk more about that in today's The Sandhya Show, where it's just I talk about things that are topical. I was going to talk about celebrity part 2, but I'm going to talk about domestic violence in today's show. Join me around 12 o'clock. But women know that the threat of domestic violence, the threat of violence is everywhere, not just domestic, but that's where we hide it. But everywhere we walk, women are constantly on alert. We know to keep keys in between fingers, etc., etc. I'll touch more on all of this in the Sandhya Show coming up. Back to the headlines. Let me just refresh here. I will, in the caption, I share the links to all the news sites, so I will be doing that today. More headlines. First person arrested and charged in connection with riot that followed alleged Sydney church stabbing. A 19-year-old man has been charged by New South Wales police in connection with a riot that happened after the alleged stabbing of a bishop. I don't think it's an alleged stabbing. I think those people who have watched the footage, because the bishop who was stabbed is known as TikTok Bishop. And it's not because I think it's because he is widening his congregational viewing, and people can tune in via TikTok like you are tuning in to hear what the news is around the world here. So, but I don't think it was alleged. I'm pretty sure that most everyone's like, that's not alleged. He's stabbed. So I don't mean to make light of it, but this is, the world's going crazy. I'm going to read an article here as well. 5 teenagers charged over alleged murder after fatal stabbing in Sydney's West. And I know these are all legalese. You've got to say alleged until proven in a court of law. So you're alleged, but we can all see. So in short, 5 teenagers have been charged in relation to the alleged murder. 1 teenager died outside a police station last Friday, and 3 teenagers were due before a children's court yesterday. So 4 teenagers have been charged with murder after 2 young brothers were stabbed in Sydney's West on Friday. A 5th teenager, aged 16, has also been charged over his role in the alleged murder and will face a children's court today, I think that was yesterday, along with 2 15-year-olds. The stabbing occurred near a school about 3:40 p.m. on Friday last week after a fight on a bus, according to New South Wales Police. And another news headline here that says, parents of teen who died by stabbing in 2019 push for wanding laws to be introduced in New South Wales. I'll explain. There is a push for wanding laws to be introduced in New South Wales. The laws allow police to use a handheld metal detector to search people without a warrant. A professor of criminology says the laws would not have made a difference in either the Bondi or Wakely attacks. Do you think such a thing would make a difference? Police having the power to just wand anyone they deem suspicious. I mean, they already do that. Brown and black people already know that.
That's the danger of it. Right?
Yeah, that there is. I recall something. My ex-stepson, about now 24 years ago, had scissors, and my ex-partner and I had given Swiss Army pen knives to our teenage, to my ex-stepsons. And so the penknife was confiscated as a weapon.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you're not allowed to have the Swiss Army penknives, which have, bottle openers and nail files and little pens. I mean, they're fantastic, right? Who doesn't love a Swiss Army penknife? But apparently they're not allowed.
Well, it is a weapon.
It
can be used as a weapon.
But he was 15 at the time, and he had a pair of scissors in his. He could have been lying to us, and the cops and the police had said he's got scissors but I think that if he had scissors, it was going to be used for other recreational purposes, unfortunately, or whatever. I say unfortunately because he's far too young, but it wasn't. But he was searched for that and fined, a 15-year-old boy fined for holding a weapon. And that, of course, he couldn't pay it. We had to pay it.
I was stopped once by police after coming home from work. I was walking home from work at night, and I had my chef knives in my bag.
Wow.
And they searched my bag for no reason. I was just walking home.
Right.
They pulled the knives out. It was all wrapped in my apron and stuff nicely. And, I was wearing chef pants. I said, I just finished work. I'm going home now. They followed me until I walked into my apartment.
Wow.
Yeah. But, I don't know, profiling, that's the thing.
That's the profiling. And look, a part of me thinks there are people who are, need to be seen. So okay, I'm going to continue reading this article, but it's profiling, and there are people who do need to be searched. I think perhaps people could wear chef's pants and get away with, and with something, so sure, but
the profiler needs to be qualified.
Yes, okay. Psychologically,
not everyone can profile.
That's correct. Sometimes that's personal agendas. Yeah. So people who have personal agendas will profile according to their emotional reaction to what they're and who they're seeing. So this is why it is very dangerous to have this freedom to just profile anyone because of and at most times it is their skin color that is the first stipulation of the criteria, and first one on our first point of that. And well, I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing. And if professors of criminology are saying that, so I'm going to read this. It's like Jack's father, so Jack Beasley. So this is what has happened. The parents of a teenager who died in a knife attack in 2019, which led to the introduction of wanding laws in Queensland, are pushing for the same laws to be introduced in New South Wales. Known informally as Jack's Law after 17-year-old stabbing victim Jack Beasley, police can use metal-detecting wands to search people without a warrant in designated areas, including some shopping centres. I think we're slowly becoming the state of America. Not slowly, very rapidly. We already say vase and Gen Z. We say Z and vase here.
I like we don't have any guns here. Can you imagine that?
You haven't been reading the news, clearly.
Oh.
Oh, there's a lot of gun violence here now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot.
It's not legal. The badly worse.
Well, after this is this is when John Howard was Prime Minister, and perhaps one of the best things a person in government or leadership has ever done after the Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania. Gun laws were absolutely changed, and guns were. It wasn't actually it was not just after Port Arthur. It was something else. It was before that too. Actually, my apologies. I have got. Please check for me when the gun laws were changed in Australia. Now, in New Zealand, the gun laws were changed when Jacinda Ardern made a very swift executive decision to get these guns off. Now, after what happened in Christchurch at the mosque, the massacre at the mosque by an Australian terrorist, a Euro-white Australian terrorist. It was such it was so shameful for Australians, regardless of background. So I'm going to continue with this news. So did you find out when the last gun laws were? No, you let me know. Just interject any moment. Jack's father, Brett Beasley, told ABC Radio Sydney he spoke to New South Wales Police Minister about bringing Jack's law to the state. New South Wales Police Minister Yasmin Catley. And he says it's a no-brainer, and the New South Wales Police Force and the New South Wales government need to get on board with this. I can guarantee you that in the first 6 months, the police will find hundreds and hundreds of weapons.
Port Arthur, yeah.
So it was after Port Arthur, and that was in the year. Yeah, you let me know when you can. So, New South Wales Police Minister Yasmin Catley has confirmed senior members of the government are discussing knife laws. And on radio yesterday, the Premier of New South Wales, Chris Minns, said he would not rule out further legislation. He's not preparing to rule anything out right now, he says. Obviously, when people are being killed and you've got a situation where a knife is being used, then it would be irresponsible not to look at it. Within a week, in less than a week, there have been stabbings, 3 stabbings. And the only profile, and they stereotypically, I guess what's connecting them all is that they're all male. They're all male. I'm not saying it's not happening to girls and women, this rage that is spilling over and taking over rationality and sense. So,
96.
In 1996, okay. The Wanding laws wouldn't have made, so that's the Port Arthur massacre in 1996, confirm that? Because I remember that very clearly, but I do think that it was before I moved to Australia, which was in the late 90s. So, Professor of Criminology Xanthi Mallet from the University of Newcastle said it is unlikely wanding powers or harsher practices for knife crimes would have made a difference in either the Bondi Junction or Wakeley church attacks. None of that would have impacted either crime, she said. Bondi attacker Joel Cauchi was not in the target demographic to be stopped and searched, and was not behaving so erratically that he would have necessarily been noticed by police, she said. I don't know if I agree with that, because from media reports and news articles, the Bondi murderer, Joel Cauchi, was acting erratically, and no, I don't know. I am a naturally a cynical person about people's motives because of my previous experience with violence. So I am always on the alert because people are snapping, and I see how people. I see that. So she is saying, this professor of criminology, that he would not have been noticed. And sure enough, he wasn't, because Joel Cauchi was in the shopping centre. He left the shopping centre and he came back to the shopping centre holding a knife as if he was holding a bag, or just, as someone has said, an ice cream cone. I know I said that yesterday, but I had read that somewhere. He was just very casually.
That's weird, right? Like in Fiji, it's a normal thing to see a guy walking around with a cane knife.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's just normal. You walk past people holding cane knives, it's just, hello.
This is, what we call cane knives are actually machetes.
Yeah.
And we are used to seeing people on the side. Now I have to see it from a foreigner's point of view. Yeah. They must freak out. Absolutely. No wonder they don't go anywhere, knowing the racial tensions in Fiji. And of course, Tourism Fiji does a great job of hiding the truth about what is actually happening in Fiji. I mean, I read a news article yesterday about a terrible thing that happened to a member of the LGBTQI community. And it wasn't just murder, it was murdered in a most heinous way. So there's trouble in paradise, and there has been ever since the 1800s, when Americans first landed on the shore and thought, aha, here's something we can own. And the Fijians, the Kaiviti, said, and I don't think so. They didn't speak English, of course, but they were not having it. And that's when the retaliation happened. So from the 1800s, that little bit of paradise has been battling the paradox of itself, where, yes, it is a paradise, but it is under severe oppression, which is an intergenerational trauma from all the racial backgrounds. Now, as you said, so yes, we do have people just wandering around holding these massive cane knives, and for us, it's like, well, they're just working, and it's their work tool. But wow. But what you do not expect to see, especially in an affluent suburb of Bondi, or and in the affluent shopping center of Westfield Bondi Junction, you do not expect to see what people saw. However, people were not quick to react, because he was walking through, and people have stopped looking at each other. People have stopped looking at people's eyes. People have stopped looking at the body language of each other, because there's far too many people and we're all too caught up in what's going on. I'm not saying that everyone would have, but I'm just saying that I think that police people, especially people who are trained to see trouble, should have seen that trouble. Nah, I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not blaming anybody. I think everyone's just dulled by the collective trauma anyway. So I'm going to continue with what Professor Mallet says. Certainly no fine nor risk of prison sentence would have had any kind of effect in putting him off. He was fully intent to go and cause as much harm as he did. And when those are the circumstances, it is incredibly difficult to predict that behavior and stop it before it happens. And she also says it wouldn't, she said, unless Australians were willing to have police at every church checking parishioners, the laws would also have been unlikely to stop the Wakely church attack. We have to ask ourselves, do we want security to be at the door of every church in this country? Professor Mallet said the type of offenders who use a knife as a weapon are typically motivated by anger or rage, and I think that is what has to be looked at. Because, interestingly, New South Wales knife crime is at a 20-year low. And even though within a week we have had some terrible, terrible knife attacks, children and schizophrenic 40-year-olds who somehow bypass the system. And as I have said before, and I'm going to keep saying, mental health is not the issue. Mental health issues affect everybody. A healthy mind can have mental health issues and still not want to go and take it out like this. A weak mind that is already susceptible. And I think we also, and I'm not a medical professional, so don't get my facts, don't get the facts from me if you're like, Scott, oh, what do you know? You don't have a medical qualification. No, I don't. But I do have some insight and observations and experiences with it. And I do know that not every mental health person feels the rage to go and externalize it. I do know that the weak-minded people who do suffer from trauma and then do get mental health issues want to externalize it. And if you're going to say that people like this have mental health, you have also got to go and talk about people who are committing atrocities against other countries. For what? For what? In the name of what? And that's a mental health issue that no one wants to talk about. The intergenerational trauma of people whose ancestors were subjected to heinous things and crimes that we all still acknowledge. Millions of people were murdered for what? For some sort of racial or religious superiority. Well, it's happening now again because trauma felt by a mind already susceptible to the weakness of rage. Through the generations, it stays there. And I'm not saying all people, if I know people recognize what I am talking about, and I am pro people of Jewish faith and pro people of Arabic origin and of Islamic faith. I am pro humanity. I am anti-religion. I am pro faith, pro spirituality, pro God, the idea of God. I'm pro-people. But this something is going wrong. Something is definitely going wrong. And as Professor Mallet says, there is not a knife crisis in New South Wales, apologies. There's a mental health crisis, and that's what we need to be talking about. Well, I don't know if people are talking about that. Yesterday I had started talking about this movie, Civil War, which is it's been considered divisive. Again, I'm reading from ABC. Civil War, starring Kirsten Dunst. Civil War is also the name of a superhero movie, a Marvel, what, Avengers? Captain America movie. Well, there you go. This is another type of Captain America, Civil War. So Civil War, starring Kirsten Dunst, imagines an America tearing itself apart. There's no need to imagine it. We are seeing the fall of a modern Roman Empire. An early contender for 2024's most controversial film, Civil War, was labeled irresponsible and potentially dangerous just from February's provocative trailer. Civil War depicts contemporary America dividing into fighting factions. I'm sorry, isn't that what is already happening? Isn't that what has happened already? So this is, even for social media, reaction was heightened. Commenters deemed it is the exact opposite of what the country needed during a tense election year. No. So therefore, in a tense election year, people need to sugarcoat the reality of what is actually happening? I don't think so. This is what social media has done to people. Dulled senses, stopped individual thinking. And everyone, let's just all have highlight feeds. So let's just show the highlights of what's happening in the world and not the reality. And that's why the crackdowns are happening on TikTok, why Instagram is shadow banning, why Facebook is also suspending. It is happening all across the board because social media wants to keep people stupid. They found out it makes their algorithms profitable. And it said, continued reading, and a potential psyop from Hollywood to manifest and incite real-world violence. Let's get this one straight. I think, yeah, okay, sure. There is this case of saying, so what they're saying is entertainment incites violence. I think that entertainment all shows the violence inside people, but I think that entertainment has to be responsible and understand that it is educational and edutainment, and people do. Now in this world of fakery, at one stage I think we did look at people and go, okay, they're all actors. Now we see more and more how the actors and celebrities, etc., are all imploding and see their machinations and their hustling for relevance via fame. So we can see the fakery behind everything, but we are also seeing that Hollywood is being irresponsible, and in so many ways. I don't think in movies like this, but in what people are expected to be and what people think that they can go and do and go and do something, and then the great Hollywood ending will happen to it. I don't know. It's it's irresponsible to say that entertainment, that art incites this violence, when art and entertainment actually channels the truth of the world at any time. It's a zeitgeist of the times. Well, that's what zeitgeist is. It's a zeitgeist, a messenger of the times. However, entertainment does need to be responsible. Anything that is being that is broadcast out on waves, that goes out into the ether, has to be responsible. So it says, from Hollywood to manifest and incite real-world violence that will spiral into the end of America as we know it. All empires fall is the film's tagline. So, gosh. Written and directed by provocateur Alex Garland. Could you please look up for me what Alex Garland, Garland, has done before? The name is very familiar to me, but it's escaping my mind library at the moment. Civil War runs with current anxieties and turns them into visceral funhouse horrors, much like previous films, Men, Annihilation, and Ex Machina. I think those are his movies. If it's Ex Machina, so Men, Annihilation, and Ex Machina dealt with misogyny, climate change, and artificial intelligence, respectively. I just still don't know what Alex Garland did. What are his movies?
English author, screenwriter, and director. Alex Garland?
Alex Garland, yes. movies.
Ex Machina.
Okay, right. So I've already. So that's what he does. So I've already.
Annihilation.
Yeah. Okay. So I've already read that. So they didn't make that clear, but he says previous films. Anyway, thank you. I'm going to move on because this is all rather depressing. But I did want to talk about what. Okay, where have I? My apologies. As I said, well, this is the beauty of live, right? Now, where is that news article that I need to talk to you about? Because. Okay. We've officially entered the Comstock gaslighting era, and I'm reading from Jezebel. Again, the link to the outlet will be there. So this is about United States, and I just need to, if we're talking about Civil War, the movie, listen to this. We've officially entered the Comstock gaslighting era. Republicans are working overtime to say, don't worry, pro-lifers, we have a secret plan for a national abortion ban. And then also say, where did you get that idea, you crazy lefty? And this is politics, and this article is written by Susan Rincunas for Jezebel. The GOP is increasingly discussing the prospect of Donald Trump enforcing a 19th century law to ban. 19th century, we are in the 21st century, but was 19th century considered, what is it considered, Middle Ages? Because I'm certain that we are still in the Middle Ages. We haven't progressed. We are in the Middle Ages still. Technologically advanced Middle Ages. Our minds have not progressed beyond the invention that necessity, created. So he has, he's going to enforce this archaic law to ban abortion nationwide if he wins a second term. And some Republicans seem desperate to swat away those concerns by telling us not to believe our lying eyes. So, okay. So our lying eyes are seeing things unfold in front of us right now. We saw Roe versus Wade for the state of America being overturned, where women no longer have autonomy of their bodies. Women worldwide do not have full autonomy. We do not have full rights over our body. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to reading news headlines from around the world because let's see what's happening. So I'm going to go now to Sydney Morning Herald. We're still going to stay here because I'm always interested to see what Sydney Morning Herald is reporting on as opposed to what the ABC. Now, of course, I read the other day, which I'm really angry about, the New York Times. I just paid my subscription, and I'm now reading that they are specifically asking their journalists not to use terms like genocide. And you've got to call a spade if you're media. If that's what impartial, you have to be impartial, you've actually got to then say the fact. And if it's a genocide, anything that is unfairly killing more people than, I was going to say, than they should, well, I'm sorry, but war is genocide. War is misanthropic. It's a hatred against humanity. The very idea of war is genocide. Killing each other for leverage, for power play, for colonization purposes, for property, for common wealth. So, leading the story on Sydney Morning Herald this morning, ATM-style machines at the Star, which is the casino, effectively started giving out cash. Soon, $3.2 million had walked out the door. Where were we when this was happening? When 4 machines malfunctioned on the gaming room floor at the Star Casino in Sydney, whoops, I just slipped, in Sydney, and started spitting out free money, word traveled quickly. Of course it did. Oh my gosh. They're going to have to pay it back. The cameras will get these people, and it's... Okay, let's continue. Teenage terror accused dropped out of school was increasingly disobedient. And this is about the Wakeley stabbing, the 16-year-old boy accused of stabbing Bishop Murray Emanuel. The age is really important here. Other news reports have said he is 15. Sydney Morning Herald is for the second day running, third day, is citing this boy as being 16 years old. So I haven't fact-checked that. I think you can be tried as an adult over 16 and under 50 and under 16 you're a juvenile. I think that is what the case is. So the 16-year-old boy accused of stabbing Bishop Murray Emanuel at a Western Sydney church had not attended school for more than 6 months. And I wonder then if that hadn't been brought up. Why was that not broached? Why Let's read further. And displayed increasing disobedience at home before the shock stabbing of a bishop on Monday night. Meanwhile, police released dramatic footage of their first arrest over the unrest that erupted outside the Christ the Good Shepherd Church, showing terrorism. Police yell, "Police, search warrant, open the door," at the Doonside house before telling a 19-year-old man he was under arrest. He was subsequently charged with riot, affray, and destroyed damaged property during public disorder. He has been refused bail. So now we're talking about a 19-year-old who had caused further unrest with the riot that was happening, because this service was broadcast on TikTok and people came in droves from all over the place. The 16-year-old, who cannot legally be identified, stabbed the bishop during a live stream Bible session shortly after 7 p.m. on Monday. On Wednesday evening, the boy remained in hospital under police guard at an undisclosed location and has not been charged. Police will go through all of this youth's life with a fine-tooth comb to probe radicalization or related interactions. What is it? Is it Syriana? Or can you look this up? So George Clooney had directed a movie about 20 years ago, Syriana, and he plays a CIA agent and looks like what really CIA agents look like. Forget your, super spies of the Mission Impossible type, and all the CIA and all the people that actors and movie makers would have you believe CIA agents are. Actually, George Clooney in this movie is at Syriana.
Yeah.
What year was that?
2005.
2005. So yes, almost 20 years ago. He looks like what a CIA agent, I believe, would look like, someone who is bland and blends in. But that is an excellent movie, and that was almost 20 years ago. And these things have been just out there in the ether. And if we are being visited by extraterrestrial intelligence, well, they're looking at us going, not going there. They're going to try and contain us. And so, yeah, I get it. If we do have extraterrestrial intelligence life form, and how can we not? So please do tune into our program, Sitara, on Mondays at 5 o'clock, as we talk about everything celestial, and that is astronomy, astrology, and theology. So that all comes under that. I'm going to move on. Now let's see what's happening on SBS News. Oh, gosh. It is still all knife laws, and record rain and storm damage, and that's about Dubai. From Tasmania to Japan, meet Mr. Wine, the world's oldest wombat. So from knife to deluge to wombats. We're going to move on to Fiji Village. Let's see what's happening in Fiji. Prasad stresses transparency in Fiji Airways charter flight procedures. If you're not from Fiji, none of this will mean anything to you, but I am now reading the news out for our Fiji viewers. Rosie Holidays invests $1 million in Fiji's first zero-emission EV hotel transfer vehicles. One of Fiji's most iconic tourism and hospitality organizations, Rosie Travel, is doing that. That's great, but let's talk about the fact that there's more potholes than road in Fiji, and the price of fuel, and the price of butter, and the price of water, and the lack of water. There is so much more that $1 million could have gone towards. I do think it's lovely, but this is all about tourism, because tourism is still seen as the moneymaker for Fiji, because as long as people can still lie about the paradox that is Fiji, and as long as we have expatriates running organizations like Tourism Fiji in Fiji, all they're going to do is sell the paradisical side of that country to people like them, so that the people like them, who are mostly from Australia and New Zealand, can go and rest their weary day-to-day, working 9-to-5 lives and be treated like royalty by the indigenous people, especially of Fiji. Because if you look at anything Tourism Fiji related, you will only see mainly indigenous Fijians, because they'll say, well, that's what people want to see. They don't want to see those Indians, the people of Indian ancestry like myself, who are nothing but Indo-Fijian. I do believe that $1 million could have gone into something else. It's all very nice that they've got the money to invest in zero-emission EV, hotel transfer vehicles. But is that what Fiji really needs? If you have a spare $1 million, But I think the world, as I said yesterday, has to go into a no-profit era for a while, because everybody now needs to get to some sort of level playing field. If this is what diversity and inclusivity was supposed to do, to level this equality playing field from which we can truly find equity, well, we need to first also implement a no-profit zone. Ooh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that because the hierarchy of the world will get upset. Nobody wants to start off from an equal playing field, because that would mean equity, because that would mean merit would lead the way. And I assure you that a lot of people in the positions of authority and power and leadership do not actually have the merit to be in those positions. They have the ego, they have the drive to be in those positions. I'm generalizing, sure. I'm sure there are lots of people in these positions who are willing to who are there, like for instance, Senator Lydia Thorpe and Senator David Pocock from both from Australia or from the land we call Australia. And look, I'm sure Rosie's holidays mean well. I'm sure they think this would be great because it's all about getting them, tourists into Fiji. But as I have said before, the pandemic lockdowns showed us how fragile an industry tourism is. And if you're just, merely asking people to come to your land just to act like royalty and know Fiji like the back of my hand, eh, mate? You don't know anything other than Denarau. That's not Fiji. There are lots and lots of reasons to visit Fiji. Fiji is rich with culture. Fiji is absolutely luscious and beautiful. It is. You land in that country and you inhale the warmth, and look, it's I feel it. I feel it every time I fly in. And as you fly into Fiji, you see the reef because the mainland especially is ringed or rung ringed by coral reef, and it's a beautiful sight. And you hear, if you're flying Fiji Airways, you hear a song that's very familiar. And you're coming into Fiji and it's very, very special. And tourism has ruined Fiji in quite a few ways, while also helping it, yes, get money, but that is what I now see, easy money. There is a platform called Fiji Runway based in California that is a wonderful gateway to the history and cultural aspects and modern day contemporary art by way of fashion. And it showcases all of that. And it's about cultural tourism. And we need to actually expand from this archaic notion of, we must treat these people coming in like royalty, because that's what people go to Fiji for, because they love the way that they get treated, which is great. I'm not denying that that shouldn't be a thing. But that $1 million could have gone to something else. I think, $1 million invested in Fiji's roads. So that tourists who go there go, oh, look, what lovely roads. They must be really, investing in infrastructure. Really, Rosie Holidays, I think he could have gone a long, long way to say roads provided by Rosie Holidays. Welcome to Fiji. Anyway, look, I'm running out of time to read what else is on, but Radio New Zealand, which is a great source of information as to what's happening across the bight. A different dream for Maori health. The coalition government got rid of them. The coalition government got rid of the Maori Health Authority in a hurry. What is it now doing instead? I will, as I said, we'll put all of these links in the caption so you can see. Here are the finalists. So that's not really. So residents of 16th floor apartment building ordered to evacuate. Why? Residents living in boats, vans amid housing crisis in New Zealand too. Interest rates. Borrowers try to second guess Reserve Bank. Owners of quake-prone buildings given 4 extra years for fixes. UN to vote on Palestinian membership. I'm going to go to the Pacific News of RNZ. In pictures, polling ends smoothly in Solomon Islands. Polling stations closed at 4 p.m. local time as more than 400,000 registered voters look to elect their national and provincial representatives for the next 4 years. The right person. What did Solomon Islanders vote for? And it's interesting, not who, but what. After a relatively well-organized and peaceful day of voting in Solomon Islands, the Electoral Commission is working with donor partners to safely transport ballot boxes from polling stations. Survivor of abuse, I'm reading more headlines, calls a meaningful Catholic Church apology. A Pacific survivor of abuse in a faith-based institution in New Zealand is calling for a proper, meaningful, in-person apology from the Catholic Church. Don't hold your breath. Bougainville government on a Panguna gold mine awareness campaign. The government in the autonomous Papua New Guinea region of Bougainville is carrying out an engagement program in the Panguna mine affected areas. This is an interesting article. World Rugby spin catches Fiji Rugby out. World Rugby has basically laid down the rule for the Fiji Rugby Union. We will talk about this in Rucks and Rolls next week. The first episode dropped yesterday. Please that's just our introduction episode. We'll be talking World Rugby news next week. So I'm going to now quickly, just to read about in Bougainville, the plan is to reach people in central Bougainville and the Panguna landowning communities who the government described as crucial stakeholders in the process to reopen the mine. Again, I may have to do a little bit more information gathering on this. I cold read the news headlines. I don't prepare because I too want to be taken by surprise or have a glimmer of hope that something is changing in the world. I do have a glimmer of hope, even as we all get more and more burdened by the collective trauma of the world. Sydney is depressed. We're not supposed to be like this because not in Sydney, not in our backyard, right? Well, if you are a person of multicultural, you know, and if you have compassion and empathy, you know that it does happen exactly in our backyard. It has been happening for 235 years in our backyard. Let me again say, I love this country. I love that this country, Australia, was built on sacred land, but I loathe and I'm filled with shame that it was built on blood-soaked land. Can we not imagine a world where we do not have to go and kill other people to integrate and live? Can we not live in peace with each other? Do you not also see, friends, viewers, and lurkers, that this is a very damaged world? Just quickly from AP News, Netanyahu brushes off calls for restraint, saying Israel will decide how to respond to Iran's attack. And now everyone is on tenterhooks, on eggshells. So Benjamin Netanyahu says his country will be one to decide whether and how to respond to Iran's major air assault over the weekend. Brace yourselves. This is going to be a very, very hard time. Ukraine has also had something. I must read this news article out to you. Ukraine ran out of missiles to thwart Russian strike on power plant, Zelensky says. A lack of air defenses meant Ukraine was powerless to prevent a Russian airstrike last week that destroyed the biggest power plant in the Kiev region, President Zelensky said. Russia fired 11 missiles towards the Tripilska power plant. Ukrainian air defenses downed the first 7 missiles, but the next 4 completely destroyed the plant. Why? Because we had 0 missiles. We ran out of all missiles, Zelensky told PBS NewsHour in an interview that aired Monday. Zelensky has repeatedly warned allies that Ukraine's air defenses are running perilously thin, as Russia has recently renewed its assault on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Whew! You know, friends, viewers, lurkers, I don't know. I don't know, but let's move into Studio K now to see what we can talk about that may give us some hope. Hope is sometimes the only thing we have. I remember a wonderful quote by a Holocaust survivor. I can't remember his full name. Wessel? I will ask Dwayne to look for that quote. But that quote says something about hope like peace is something only hope like peace is something that we can give or is only found by giving each other, or something like that. My apologies, but really what that is that hope and peace is something external. It's a very difficult thing to hold on to hope. You have to have something outside of yourself to hook onto, to provide you with hope. And sure, people say, no, 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 hope and peace is very much an inner thing. Sure, peace internally can be found if you choose to delete knowledge of what is happening in the outside world. And sure, you can live a very peaceful life if you live in blissful ignorance. And you can have peace within yourself and knowing and being at peace with who you are, knowing that you are a person of substance and compassion and humanity. But you still cannot truly feel peace when you look around, even if you're peaceful and happy within yourself. You look at the world, and I was, and I will talk about this in today's The Sandhya Show. Yesterday I was affected quite badly by the world's trauma, by the personal things, personal trauma I am healing from. Those of you who know my origin story or background, etc., know that I, in my 50s, have had to confront my past, and a very violent past, mind you, which forged me and made my core steel. That doesn't mean it made me thick-skinned, because I chose to remain thin-skinned in order to be able to feel joy and love, and also empathy, because I feel the pain of my fellow human. Peace we can only truly feel when everybody else has that peace. And hope is what we have to hold on to make sure that we don't destroy our inner peace, and that we continue to progress, because this is what happens. We have no choice. Our bodies continue to progress with age, maybe not with health, because health is determined by our brains. Our minds control our control center, and they can manipulate us. They are in charge of us, or they control us. We all need hope in order to, hello darling, we all need hope. Let's talk about hope, sweetheart. You know, I'm talking about hope and peace is something we can give to each other, right?
Absolutely.
Because yes, we can feel peace inside. We can, but feeling peace inside without understanding that peace is not something that everybody experiences, I think that's ignorance. To be people who are, you know, rah, 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 fun times, all right, we're having a great time right now, in these tumultuous times, in a world in turmoil. I do look to these people and think, wow, you are deliberately being insular and ignorant of what is happening in the world. I'm not saying we all need to now, we can't function. So we all need to. But there's a lot of people who are using advocacy as avoidance, so they're not actually looking to find peace within themselves. They use, advocating for other people to temporarily suspend the turmoil inside. And that's not peace either. And that's, if you're already tumultuous and, you know, in turmoil inside, and you're fighting for peace outside, you're not going to get that peace.
Well, do you think they feel like they've done enough?
No.
And then they.
No.
That gives them the, you know.
Okay,
I've done my bit. Now I can.
Oh yes, yes, sure. It's what I call the recycling bin syndrome. So people go and put their, what has been deemed recyclables, like a pizza box, and they just go and dump it in our bins, yellow bins in New South Wales, the recycling bin, and they go, I'm a good person, I just did something good. Yeah. Actually, the pizza box needs to have all the remnants of the pizza out of it. You've got to put the food stuff in the red bin, which is the organics bin, or the general waste bin, and you've got to flatten the pizza box. Likewise, milk cartons in any way have to be washed out, so they're not then have, the dregs of milk left over in them. But people don't go that effort. I'm generalizing, of course. We do, and I know other people do, but generally, this is how people think, the recycling bin syndrome. And so advocating and putting, on your Instagram and everything, and, we're advocating for everything that needs to be advocated for. By the way, don't think I'm saying stop advocating, advocate. But I also shared yesterday that when a person who is operating from ego trauma sees something like the world saying, ceasefire, they know they actually have the power. You think people who are, genociding to gain power, using a lovely, people, I don't know. You think they really, really are going to go, oh my gosh, the world's people are asking for ceasefire. We must stop. We're actually igniting it more. I'm not saying we need to stop, but this behavior, because this is a dangerous thing as well, because I think we are too far gone. We're too used to media now. Starting from the Gulf War way back when, we're too used to media, and now we are all on the media algorithm. Because what I would like to say is that if we stop giving attention, but that means I'm going to have to stop talking about this in news as well, and I can't do that because I would like to talk more about this. But the more attention we give them in that regard, the more they think they're succeeding.
Yeah, sure.
Because
wow,
it's not stopping. It's and what we do have to talk, what we really have to do, which we shouldn't have to do, because the people in positions of power in government are supposed to be just representatives, not just but just representatives of the people, of the population. They govern us, not because they rule us, but because we voted them in to speak for us, to make the right decisions on our behalf.
For the people, by the people.
That's it. There are people in positions in government who try. As I said, I cited two names in government now, Senator Lydia Thorpe and Senator David Pocock, both exemplary human beings who you can see that they refuse, they will not, they're doing it alone, they stand alone, they know they have to, because people then get... I recall not quite a friend, but an acquaintance had said to me, a person of indigenous, an indigenous Fijian person said to me that people always say to him, "Hey, Ratu." Ratu is a chiefly title, and so you say, "Hey, Ratu, why don't you go into politics? Well, you're the right man for it." Blah blah blah, and and I said, "Well, why don't you? You are, and you and your wife, you're the poster couple for, he's indigenous, she's of Indian ancestry, she's a professional feminist, he's, whatever." But yeah, he said, yeah, that's all very great, but until they're all on your side when it's all good, but when it comes to the crunch, he acknowledged this, that people, they abandon you. And then when it comes to the crunch, it's very, very rare to find people who will stand by your side and have your back and stand up for you. People who have innate power, unfortunately lack the external solidarity and support that they need. And the people who lack power but have the bluster have the entourage, because the entourage know, woo, this is our puppet. Feed that ego and that person will do anything we want. It's happening in the state of America right now. It's happening all over the world right now. Who's advising Putin? Why aren't people in Putin, younger people? Why are all these dinosaurs in power still? I'm a Gen Xer. I know the wealth of knowledge older people have. But I think we need a cutoff. I think we need a cutoff age. It's like if you expect people who are earning money just in the day-to-day grind to retire at, 60? Before it was 55. Would you believe 55 was the retirement age? And now us all mid-50s people are like, what? Thanks a lot. Can't see that happening. And I don't ever... Well, we're artists.
What's the retirement age for government? Because, the president's 100 years old.
That's what I'm saying.
Prime Minister...
Putin is in his 70s. Trump is in his 70s. All of these old people, I'm sorry, you do understand. Us normal people, when we get over a certain age and we're like, oh my God, dementia. Women are menopausal and crazy with it in their very young age, in their 50s.
But you can't even get a job. People won't hire you. How are these people still in power?
I don't know. So if you can't get hired by, businesses, go into government. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know.
Run for president.
Yeah.
Prime Minister.
I don't know. I believe in people. Like we all believed in our current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. I don't know if
That
it,
was the case, though?
no,
Believe at
people
first?
didn't really believe in the previous Scott Morrison
How
and
did he get it?
He was a marketing expert, and and he used God as his publicist. Is it Albanese or Albanese? I really do get that wrong. But he was a voice of the people, a man of the people. Everyone was so excited when he got into power. Well, he didn't go into power. Unfortunately, they say power corrupts. No, power doesn't corrupt. A weak mind gets corrupted. And sadly, oh no, I'm not equating the weak mind with Anthony. With our Prime Minister. I'm not necessarily a fan, but I do understand one thing. Once you enter the system, you actually pledge allegiance to the system. This is what has happened to the Obamas. These black Americans, Obama, please remember Obama is also half European white, but he is a black appearing man. So he is therefore a black man and he identifies as a black man, but half of him is white. I'm not sure, but also he is very pro-Israel because as president of as a former president of the state of America, he has to pledge allegiance for the rest of his and his family's lives to what the White House says. And so therefore he has to be pro-Israel because what he is actually is pro-people of Jewish faith. And I think a lot of us are. It is not the people of Jewish faith because on Instagram and in many places, and I know people of Jewish faith who are like, this is atrocious. They're not speaking for me, those people who have been ensconced in the Middle East by the state of America, 75 to 100 years ago? And by the machinations of what was happening in Europe, in the war that has continued. It has not stopped. It just was on hiatus. So yes, as I'm saying, they're Jewish elders for Palestine, etc., etc. This is not This is a grab for power and using the most powerful manipulate tactics. Anyway, back to Australia, our Prime Minister, I think, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm not in defense of what they do because we're all shocked and appalled. But the way the systems have happened, now in order to unravel the system, you've got to pull at a thread. And when you pull at that thread, you see how far back it goes. And when you pull at one thread, okay, we have also dropped Finalysis, right? And it's not our first Finalysis, but our latest Finalysis on our show is about the Nolanverse, and we start off with Batman Begins. Now, in The Dark Knight, we talk about this, but it's okay, I'm sure by now people have seen, or if not, you should see this movie, The Dark Knight. It is part of the Nolanverse trilogy. And this is the second one. And it's about Harvey Dent and what Dent stands for, right? But if you know the story, well, okay, then you know. But otherwise, spoiler alert, Harvey Two-Face then shows his true face that was inside him. But a great secret, a great lie had to be told in order to keep the justice system in place. And that is actually a sign of our societies. That the lies have to be kept in place in order for the greater truth to be sustained. And I don't believe that anymore. In fact, I think the truths have now been so terribly buried.
Because they're all being told in fiction, in the form of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So people's going, this is the movie, man.
Movies are made by people who channel truth into their art, and this is what artists do. I'm not saying that most of it is propaganda. Hollywood is the state of America's best public relations ever. I believe in, oh, look, I don't know what I believe in anymore. I believe in people. I believe that people want to do the right thing by other people, but unfortunately, there are also people in positions of power who want to make sure that there is always a hierarchy of power, and that in order for that to happen, in order, the hierarchy of power requires the bottom levels to not have power. Oh, look, I don't know. This is it's very tiring. It's all very tiring. I wouldn't want to be a politician. I wouldn't want to be in government, especially not at the moment, because who, what, how? People are just tired. People try and do. It's still left up to the people to protest against unfairness against us all. And yet I know that there are in governments people who exist who must look at this and go, what is going on? Why am I part of something that is contributing to the trauma of the world? I'm going to have to go elsewhere now with this. So let's talk about these earrings. These earrings are by jewelry designer Sonia Pallet, a First Nations woman. And these are the emu feather earrings, and look, a wonderful emu stamp, and these are very special, and I love them. And I'll have the link to Sonia Pallet's online store so you can go and see as well what artists are doing. And if you feel like you want to make a start in reparations and in making a change in the world, well then do it if you can financially, or if you can't do it financially, then do it in support via sharing, what the goodness of people, helping people, people who are still suffering from the colonization of their people, of their ancestors. What is this world? What is this world meant to be? I feel it's meant to be, it was meant to be heaven. It was meant to be heaven, because in the formation of the world, and we talked about it a bit on Sitara on Monday, in the formation of the world, it was a raging inferno that Dwayne said it was hell on earth. And it was. When the land masses were formed, it was just all volcanic activity and great big, spewing of, we do have to talk about, and we'll talk about that in next week's Sitara, the formation of the planets. How did Earth get to really be what it is? But stay tuned. Today we've got the Sandhya show at 12 o'clock, where I will talk about mental health. And later on this evening, we are dropping the slideshow. Join us for that. It's not what you think it is. It's the slideshow, and it's an old-fashioned travel show when we talk about some of our adventures, and we're starting off with Outback. When we traveled around Outback for just a very short time in between all the work we were doing at that time. And lots and lots and lots and lots of photos. It's all photos, all photos. So join us this evening for the slideshow. But otherwise, I think that's us for today. It is time for the most important part of the show, the Daily Egg. Ta-da! Thanks for being here with us this morning. And please don't forget to subscribe. If you're just a lurker or a viewer and not a subscriber, please do join us. We are trying to share... I don't know what we're trying to share. We're just...
Trying to share.
Trying to share. We're not trying, we are doing. And we'd like you to join us, because we don't intend to stop. Because transparency is also, if everything else spreads like a virus, well, the antidote is transparency and truth. And that antidote spreads very quickly if you let it. Thanks for being here. See you later on. Bye.